This video is a compilation of my Florida history and mythology videos brought together as a single documentary. So here I am in Miami, Florida. I'm going to see what history there is to be found in the Sunshine State. Florida is home to an array of animals, some of which are deadly and some, like these pelicans, are not. The more risky beasts include alligators and bull sharks, but species that should not be there include enormous snakes and man-eater reptiles, as well as wild hogs with an intriguing history. So, let's delve into the history of a trio of troublesome invaders. Being a subtropical climate with plenty of sunshine and plenty of rainfall, Florida is teeming with wildlife. As you land at Miami International Airport, there are a number of signs with a mixture of warnings and pleas not to import agricultural produce that could take root in Florida and damage the ecosystem. Those signs refer mainly to plants, which I'm sure are a major concern, but they are not capable of attacking and consuming people. Animals, plants and fish are abundant on land, in the sea, and in the enormous flooded grasslands known as the Everglades, the largest subtropical wilderness in the United States. And it is in the last environment on that list that at least two terrifying reptilian invaders dwell. First, let's look at a serpentine interloper that poses a considerable threat to the delicate swampland ecosystem, the Burmese python. As its name suggests, the Burmese python does not originate here. The invasive species that can grow to lengths of up to 22 feet poses a considerable challenge, particularly in the Everglades. These large constrictor snakes, native to Southeast Asia, were introduced to the region primarily through the exotic pet trade. When pet owners released them into the wild, the pythons adapted well to the warm, swampy environment of the Everglades. This is a verifiable version of the urban myth of New York sewer crocodiles. Burmese pythons have a significant ecological impact on Florida's native wildlife. They are apex predators and prey on a wide range of animals, including mammals, birds and reptiles. This has led to drastic reductions in the populations of some native species, such as raccoons, rabbits, and certain bird species. The reduction of these populations disrupts the ecosystem balance and can have cascading effects on other species and the overall health of the Everglades. Management efforts have seen python hunts taking place, as well as awareness campaigns warning the public not to release exotic pets into the wild. The primary challenges in controlling the Burmese python arise from difficulty in finding the camouflaged creatures in the vast and inaccessible Everglades and their high reproductive rate. A single female can lay up to 100 eggs, leading to rapid population growth. The deadliest invasive species in Florida, however, is undoubtedly the Nile crocodile. A certified man-eater, the 20-foot reptiles that are native to sub-Saharan Africa have been found in small numbers in Florida, raising fears among wildlife experts. Although only a few individuals have been confirmed, their presence is a danger to people and threatens the Everglades habitat. Nile crocodiles are large, aggressive predators that could compete with native American alligators and American crocodiles for habitat and prey, potentially displacing these species. Nile crocodiles are also known for their aggressive behaviour towards humans, posing a significant safety threat. Their potential establishment in Florida could lead to increased deadly human-crocodile encounters. In 2014, the National Park Service released a press statement on the capture of Nile crocodiles in the Everglades. It read, "Homestead, Florida Everglades National Park and partners, including the University of Florida, Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, and the Swamp Apes, a volunteer organisation, worked together over the weekend to capture a Nile crocodile that was reported in Everglades National Park, in the Chiquita area of the park, which is currently closed to the public. Members of the Swamp Apes, authorised agents for the exotic removal program in Everglades National Park, notified the park that they'd spotted this animal while conducting regular Burmese python surveys. On Sunday, March the 9th, an inter-agency team of cooperators responded quickly to begin an operation to remove the exotic animal from the park. After several hours of corralling the crocodile into a small section of canal, the team was able to capture the animal. Exotic reptiles continue to challenge the health of South Florida ecosystems we are charged with protecting, said Superintendent Dan Kimball. Unfortunately, federal and state agencies in Florida spend over $80 million a year to remove invasive plants and animals to protect our natural resources. Our ongoing partnership with federal and state agencies and volunteers to remove exotic plants and animals from protected areas is essential. Circumstances surrounding the escape or release of this animal are currently under an ongoing criminal investigation by FWC. This crocodile is a juvenile and not yet of breeding age, with a total length of approximately 5.5 feet and weight of 37.4 pounds. Another species that has gained a hoofhold in the state actually arrived with the Spanish conquistador. Wild hogs, also known as feral hogs or wild boar, are an invasive species in Florida with significant ecological, agricultural and economic impacts. These animals are descendants of domestic pigs that either escaped or were released into the wild and have since established large, free-ranging populations. Wild hogs root up the soil in search of food, causing extensive damage to native vegetation, wetlands and forests. This behaviour disrupts plant communities and can lead to erosion and sedimentation in water bodies. Their foraging habits and competition for resources negatively affect native wildlife populations, including ground-nesting birds, small mammals and reptiles. Furthermore, wild hogs can carry diseases such as pseudo-rabies, brucellosis and swine flu, which can infect other wildlife, livestock and even humans. Hunting and trapping are routinely used to control their numbers. But efforts to do so are made more complicated by the highly adaptable pigs' prodigious reproductive rate. The history of their presence in the Sunshine State goes back centuries to the early days of European colonization of the Americas. In 1539, Spanish explorer Hernando de Soto brought domestic pigs to Florida as a food source for a treasure hunting expedition. These pigs, left to roam freely, began to establish feral populations when some escaped or were released intentionally. This set the stage for the widespread feral hog populations seen today. Hernando de Soto's treasure hunt in Florida is part of a larger narrative of his expedition through the southeastern United States during the early 16th century. De Soto, a Spanish explorer and conquistador, embarked on a quest for wealth and glory that would lead him through vast and uncharted territories. His journey, beset by encounters with indigenous peoples and a relentless pursuit of rumoured riches, has left a lasting legacy and numerous legends, particularly regarding the hunt for treasure in Florida. Hernando de Soto was born around 1500 in Jerez de los Caballeros, Spain. He gained fame and wealth as a key figure in the conquest of the Inca Empire in South America under Francisco Pizarro. With his newfound wealth and reputation, De Soto sought to undertake his own expedition. In 1538 he was granted permission by King Charles I of Spain to explore and colonize La Florida, a term that then referred to a large and undefined region of North America. De Soto landed on the west coast of Florida near present-day Bradenton in May 1539. His expedition included over 600 men, horses, livestock and supplies. De Soto's goal was to find gold and other riches, similar to the treasures discovered in Mexico and Peru. The expedition was driven by tales of wealth held by native tribes in the interior of the continent. De Soto and his men ventured inland, travelling through what is now the southeastern United States, including Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama, Mississippi and Arkansas. The expedition was marked by a series of confrontations with Native Americans who were often hostile to the foreign invaders. De Soto's men employed brutal tactics, attempting to subjugate and extract information about the location of treasures. In Florida, De Soto's journey was characterized by a relentless search for gold and other valuable resources. He encountered various indigenous groups such as the Apalachee, Timucua and Tocobaga. These interactions were often violent, as De Soto's men sought to coerce the native populations into revealing the locations of supposed hidden wealth. Some stories suggest that De Soto discovered and buried vast amounts of gold and silver during his expedition. However, historical records indicate that he did not find the wealth he sought. His expedition was plagued by hardships, including disease, hunger and resistance from indigenous tribes. It's most likely that his quest ended in failure. Ultimately, he died of fever on the banks of the Mississippi River in May 1542, leaving his remaining men to eventually abandon the expedition and return to Mexico. The tales of hidden treasures, however, have persisted in folklore. De Soto's lasting legacy is the presence of a large number of feral pigs. I'm not sure that's how he would have wanted history to remember him. During the colonial period, additional pigs were introduced by settlers for agricultural purposes. These animals often escaped captivity or were turned loose to forage, further contributing to the feral hog population. By the 19th century, wild hogs were a common sight in Florida's forests and swamps, a problem that persists to this day. The squally waters off the Florida Keys have accounted for many a vessel throughout our maritime history. But the tale of the Nuestra Señora de Atocha is one of the most vivid, encapsulating the drama and danger of the age of sail. The Nuestra Señora de Atocha was one of the most renowned Spanish treasure galleons of the 17th century. It was built to transport immense wealth from the New World back to the imperial heart of Spain, perhaps the world's first global superpower. But the Atocha met a tragic fate in 1622, becoming the centre of one of the most significant underwater treasure discoveries in history. In the early 17th century, Spain heavily relied on its colonies in the Americas for precious metals and other valuables. The Atocha, along with other ships in the fleet, carried a fortune in gold, silver, emeralds, and various goods pilfered from the Spanish colonies, such as modern-day Mexico, Peru, and Colombia. But on September 4th, 1622, the fleet, including the Atocha, encountered a powerful hurricane while navigating through the Florida Straits. The storm wreaked havoc, sinking several ships, including the Atocha. The galleon struck a reef and broke apart, sending its precious cargo to Davy Jones's locker. The shipwreck lay at a depth that made recovery efforts at the time extremely hazardous, but salvage efforts were mounted nonetheless, and they were brutal. The Spanish authorities attempted to salvage the sunken treasure, a challenging and dangerous task that often relied on enslaved labour. These enslaved people worked underwater in extremely hazardous and exhausting conditions, risking their lives for riches they would never benefit from. Diving bells were employed to recover some of the treasure from the wreck of the Atocha. These bells were rudimentary compared to modern standards, but they allowed divers to descend to significant depths and remain underwater for longer periods. Divers would work under the bell to gather treasure from the sea floor and return to the surface. However, the forced efforts were hampered by several challenges, including storms, strong currents, and the sheer difficulty of locating the wreckage, which was spread out wide across the sea floor. Additionally, the use of diving bells was highly dangerous and physically demanding, with many divers facing significant risks. The effort to recover the Atocha's treasure was lengthy, and while some of the cargo was retrieved, much of the wealth was lost for centuries. The exact location of the Atocha remained a mystery for over 350 years, sparking intrigue and treasure hunting. It wasn't until the 20th century that Mel Fisher took on the challenge. Fisher and his team spent years in pursuit of the legendary shipwreck. Their persistence paid off in 1975 when they discovered a significant portion of the Atocha's treasure near to the Marquesas Keys, around 35 miles from Key West, Florida. The haul included over 40 tons of silver and gold, including 114,000 Spanish silver coins known as pieces of 8, gold coins, and a dazzling array of emeralds, along with other artifacts. The estimated value of the recovered treasure was around $450 million at the time. The discovery not only unearthed great riches, but also a wealth of historical knowledge, as it provided a glimpse into the trade and maritime practices of the Spanish Empire. The recovery of the Atocha's treasure had far-reaching implications. For historians and archaeologists, the artifacts offered invaluable insights into the economic and cultural exchanges between the Old and New Worlds during the early modern period. The coins and bullion bore the marks of various mints and provided data on the economic conditions and mining activities in the Spanish colonies. Nuestra Señora de Atocha remains a symbol of the vast riches and risks and exploitation associated with the age of exploration and colonization. Its story, from its sinking to the dramatic recovery of its treasure, is a classic of the genre, and part of the rich tapestry of Florida's history. The Overseas Highway is a scenic 113-mile roadway connecting the mainland of Florida to Key West. This highway, part of US Route 1, traverses the Florida Keys, a stunning chain of islands that stretch from Key Largo in the north to Key West in the south. Its history is as interesting as the journey it offers, and is a tale of vision, ingenuity, and perseverance. The story of the Overseas Highway begins with the Florida East Coast Railway, or FEC, founded by Henry Flagler, a key figure in the development of Florida's East Coast. Flagler, a visionary entrepreneur, extended the FEC from Jacksonville to Key West. This ambitious project, known as the Overseas Railroad, commenced in 1905 and was completed in 1912. The railroad was hailed as the eighth wonder of the world due to the significant engineering challenges it overcame, including its breathtaking construction of bridges over open water. The Overseas Railroad operated until the devastating Labor Day hurricane of 1935. This Category 5 storm, one of the strongest hurricanes to hit the United States, struck the Florida Keys on September 2nd, 1935. The hurricane's powerful winds and storm surge destroyed significant portions of the railroad, especially in the upper Keys, and led to the loss of many lives, including World War I veterans working on road projects in the area. The FEC deemed the damage too extensive and costly to repair, effectively ending the era of the Overseas Railroad. What an incredible rail journey was lost forever in an instant. In the aftermath of the hurricane, the idea of converting the damaged railroad into a highway began to take shape. The state of Florida purchased the remaining railroad right-of-way and infrastructure from the FEC. Construction of the Overseas Highway commenced in earnest, utilising the existing railway bridges and adding new sections of road to connect the islands. The project was part of a broader effort to improve infrastructure during the Great Depression, providing jobs and economic stimulus. On March 29, 1938, the Overseas Highway officially opened to automobile traffic. This initial version of the highway was a two-lane road that linked the Keys to the mainland and facilitated tourism and commerce to the region. However, the highway of the 1930s and 1940s was still relatively rudimentary, with narrow lanes and bridges. Significant improvements and expansions were made over the subsequent decades. In the 1950s and 1960s, the highway was widened, and many of the original railroad bridges were replaced with modern, more durable structures. One of the most notable developments occurred in 1982 when the new 7-mile bridge was completed, replacing the original bridge and offering a safer and more reliable route between Knights Key and Little Duck Key. Today, the Overseas Highway is a vital artery for the Florida Keys, supporting tourism, commerce and daily life. It is renowned for its breathtaking views, stretching across turquoise waters, coral reefs and lush islands. The highway includes 42 bridges, with the 7-mile bridge being the most iconic. The highway has also been recognised for its cultural and historical significance. In 2001 it was designated an All-American Road under the National Scenic Byways Programme, highlighting its importance not just as a transportation route, but as a destination in itself. The Overseas Highway stands as a testament to human ingenuity and perseverance, from its origins in the vision of Henry Flagler through the devastation of the 1935 hurricane, to its modern status as a beloved scenic route, and one that I have been lucky enough to have traversed a number of times myself. The highway encapsulates a century of history and progress. It is a vivid example of the achievements of the so-called American century. Its development transformed the distant Florida Keys from isolated islands into a connected community, ensuring that the unique beauty and charm of the Keys are accessible to all who venture down this extraordinary road. Elon Musk's crazy new Cybertruck from Tesla is a beast of a vehicle that has half an eye on the eccentric billionaire's quest to colonize Mars. But there are mysteries and non-mechanical monsters still to be unravelled here on Earth. We took to combining the two with a Cybertruck trip to the alleged territory of the historic cryptid known as the skunkape. So, firstly, what is the skunkape, and what is its history? Well, in short, think Bigfoot in the Everglades, but there is more to the story of this mythical mangrove monster. There are unsubstantiated claims that local Seminole and Miccosukee Native Americans have a long tradition of a creature allegedly called the Esti-Kapkaki, or Tall Man. This was, according to the claims, a foul-smelling, hairy ape-like creature that stalked the swamps of Florida. There have been sporadic sightings in the neighbouring southeastern states of Georgia and Alabama, but the creature is most closely associated with the Sunshine State. The first recorded sighting took place in northern Florida, in what is now Apalachicola, in Franklin County. This incident dates to 1818, where local newspapers reported a man-sized monkey had been raiding food stores and stalking fishermen along the shore. But most encounters, and the most intriguing ones of recent history, have taken place in the southern part of the state. Sightings have been reported in urban and suburban areas of Broward and Dade counties. We visited Fort Lauderdale and other locations across South Florida in the search and spoke to locals about the skunkape, but to no avail. So it was time, obviously, to look further afield. So after looking through the suburbs, it's now time to get into the Cybertruck from this suburban part of Florida and head into more exotic climes in the search for the skunkape. That more exotic location is the site of one of the most intriguing accounts of the skunkape, Key Largo. Between July and September 1977, a series of incredible events transpired on the island. The incidents began when Vietnam War veteran and former police officer Charles Stockman and his 13-year-old son Charlie were out searching for rare bottles among the mangroves growing behind their home, which was located around 30 yards off the overseas highway. Stockman lived in the Florida Keys territory with his wife Leslie and their 3 children. While rummaging around twisted roots of the red mangroves along the shoreline, Stockman and his son had a close encounter with the beast. He said, "I think I startled it. It was way ahead, a dark hairy patch. It sort of stayed there, like a deer does when the wind shifts and it catches your scent, but it stunk awful, like a dog that hasn't been bathed in a year and suddenly gets rained on. The skunkape was 8 or 9 feet tall and must have weighed around 500 pounds. He added, "It had a huge head and shoulders, long fur all over, and stunk like a dirty wet dog. The noise he made was a high-pitched wailing noise." Further terrifying sightings allegedly took place, leading to Mrs. Stockman fleeing the family home and heading north to Homestead. Mr. Stockman was said to have remained behind for a while in an unsuccessful attempt to bring down the beast with bullets. But, despite the family's claims, evidence of the sightings remained scant. We conducted a search of the area and spoke to locals at restaurants and dive bars who were fairly perplexed by our inquiries. I inspected shell middens near a fishery, themselves a subject of debate. Shell middens may have been part of ritual midden mounds constructed by ancient inhabitants who practiced a mound-building culture. But depositional sequences and the transient nature of the so-called building materials at these sites present difficulties in determining their chronology. There is also the very high chance that these were just dumped from the fishery over the road. Another historical mystery from this part of the USA. I also delved into dense foliage looking for anything unusual, but, perhaps unsurprisingly, found nothing that would indicate the presence of a large wild ape. So, why the Cybertruck? Well, this is the least mysterious element of this quest. I was on vacation, as American viewers would call it, visiting a friend who lives in Florida, and is one of the first to take possession of one of the impressive electric vehicles. It was certainly a neat way to traverse this fascinating landscape. Despite Elon Musk's technology, however, we did not succeed in seeing the legendary skunkape. And, as I mentioned, most locals I spoke to had never heard of the creature. It seems that, if this pungent, shaggy-haired animal ever existed, it might now have passed on into extinction or legend. Unlike other famous US cryptids like the Mothman, Jersey Devil, Bigfoot and Chupacabra, however, this mythical beast has drifted further into obscurity rather than maintaining its notoriety. I definitely heard something here, though. Skunkape doing the backstroke, large fish, or a hiding gator, we'll never know. But the skunkape remains an intriguing case in the bizarre history of the United States, and is a case of modern folklore. So, what do you think? Was or is the skunkape a real creature known for a vast expanse of time by Native Americans, or a crazy story of mass hysteria that has spanned just a couple of centuries? But that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, share, and most importantly subscribe. And you can also support the channel on Subscribestar via the link in the description, or via YouTube Super Thanks. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.